Hello, Gunrack Mafia. It is Drew. This week I sat down with Robert Hinkle and Nick Johns. They're both SDI graduates, and they both work as small arms technicians over at Fort Moore. So we got to talk a little bit about what they do day to day, their experience at SDI, how they started their own sort of SDI Friday, and also they share a couple tales from the range. It's been a while since we've had one of those. So, really excited to share this episode with you, and yeah, hope you guys enjoy.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Range is hot. Lock and load. It's time for the Gun Rack with your hosts, Joey and Drew.
All right, so I am here with Robert Hinkle and Nick Johns. First of all, thank you guys so much again for coming on. Really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to talk with us a little bit about your time at SDI and what you guys are doing at Fort Benning, or well, I guess now it's Fort Moore, but
Yeah.
a little bit about your role there. Really excited to get into it. So, first of all, how are you guys coping with this heat right now? Because I'm a North Carolina boy, and I'm up in the mountains, and it's been brutal here. So I can only imagine how bad it's been for you guys on that Georgia-Alabama line.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
We have some AC right now. We're praying that it stays.
Oh, really? Does it go out often, or is it not super reliable?
It has its times.
Oh no. Oh no. Well, we'll be sending thoughts and prayers your way. Maybe a couple fans if we can get to it. So I want to kick things off. Robert, you sent me an email just kind of laying out some information about you guys. I just want to make sure I have things straight. So Robert, I'll start with you. You graduated from the certificate program in 2020, and you expect to graduate from the associate's degree program this month.
Yes. So this is my last week right here. So I just finished my discussion board, and that was the last thing I had to do. So I'm done.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Congratulations. I'm glad the timing kind of worked out. A little bit of a last hurrah.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was perfect.
And your role at Fort Moore is your small arms technicians. So basically you service and repair like the various small arms that are at the fort.
Yeah, so what it is, Fort Benning or Fort Moore is I'm not used to it yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just happened this year, so okay.
Yeah. But so it's a TACOM FMX, and TACOM's the Tank and Automotive Command, and they're actually based in what is it, Warren, Michigan?
Yeah, Warren.
Warren, Michigan, and they have FMX field maintenance support,
Field maintenance expansion.
There you go, expansion, and so they have different sites. We got Fort Leonard Wood, maybe Jackson, Fort Jackson, just scattered around at the training installations. And I don't know if everybody's familiar with Fort Moore, but it's a basic training for the infantry, tankers,
Cavalry
Scouts, and then they got a handful, well, not a handful, they got quite a bit of other training specific to those MOSs. And they got Ranger training here. They have the Ranger Regiment here, Airborne, all the schools to enhance soldiers' capabilities. So what we do is we support it with weapons maintenance. So everything that needs a weapon, minus the Ranger Regiment, they have their own maintenance department over there to take care of themselves. But we do support the Ranger School, and then we have a main building. We call it the CCEP. I can't tell you. He probably tell you what that stands for, but we call it the CCEP. It's just a main building where all the weapons are stored, and units come in. They draw whatever number of weapons and packages that they need to go do their training. And then we also have satellite shops at two different basic training brigades. So we have a 197th, we got 198th. So we got a person over at 198 supporting that. Myself and, or to say it correctly, Nick and myself, we support 197th here. So we're at a satellite shop outside of our main shop. And so we do work on a plethora of weapons, all the way down to the M17, handgun, pistol. Before we was working on the M9 Berettas to M4s, M249s, 240s, all the variants. There's there's Bravos, Charlies, Hotels, Limas, M2A1s, M2 Legacies, original M2s,
Mark 19s,
Mark 19s, Carl Gustavs. Sometimes if any of us, we go over to the Rangers. We got 2 technicians over at the Rangers, but a few years, actually,
Ranger School.
Yeah, the Ranger School, probably 4 years ago, myself and Nick was at Ranger School working the weapons over there for about 6 months. I think Nick stayed a little bit longer than I did, but
yeah,
over there you got a chance to work on AK-47s and the M14s, very little, but you get your hands on them and look on them. But what we do is, I know it's a long answer, but it's an inspection, maintenance, and repair.
Gotcha.
We bridge the gap since this is a training environment. When you have your normal unit, you have your normal mechanics, SMARMs, people that are actually in the Army. This is a training environment. We're that gap breacher to make sure maintenance is still performed. We
Gotcha.
also provide support to the sniper school. We work on all the sniper systems.
Oh, nice. So you guys sound like a busy men.
Oh yeah,
That's
definitely.
what I'm gathering.
Yeah.
And so you guys are both, in that same sort of role, correct?
Yes.
When did each of you guys start in that capacity?
So I started in January of 2019.
Okay.
And then
I joined in February 2019, the month right after him.
Well, yeah, I'm assuming y'all didn't know each other before starting. That's pretty cool though, like a month apart.
Yeah, so we started right around that same time. And then Nick is the one that introduced all of us to SDI. When we started with the job, his background's an infantryman. My background is a combat engineer. So we've been around weapons our entire adult life with the military, but I was not a repairman. I performed maintenance on them at the user level. With soldiers and all that. Same for Nick.
Yeah.
We didn't repair them, but when we came onto the job, they gave us an opportunity of training, on the job training. We did that, and then Nick found SDI, and he started it first, and then referred me to it, and then I started SDI back in probably right around the end of 2019, I think it was, when I started the certificate program.
Yeah, I started 2019.
Yeah.
I actually attempted SDI in 2017. Because when I got out of the Army, one of my whole ideas was I was watching that show Sons of Guns on Discovery Channel back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna be a gunsmith. I started cleaning my guns at my table at the house. I started SDI. I had some things come up to where I couldn't quite finish it. Then I kept saying, I'll do SDI and it'll help me get this job. Well, I managed to get this job down the road. And one thing I was thinking about was, I could still do SDI and kind of help my mindset. It looks better on paper that I have some type of certification versus since we have maybe about 2 or 3 guys who are actually schoolhouse trained here. The rest of us just learned.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So like, did you find out just like through YouTube or like Facebook or something like that, or?
Yeah, pretty much that was it. When I was transitioning out, of course, coming from a combat arms MOS, I already started hearing people talk about like, I can go to this school and they're going to teach me to build a rifle and then I get to keep it. And that started sounding very interesting to me. I was like, that does sound pretty cool.
Yeah. So, and I want to get back to that here in a second. First, I wanted to ask, what led both of you guys to join the military in the first place?
All right. Well, I'm actually from this area, so I was born and raised around the military. My grandfather actually used to be a part of the infantry training board back in the day, making the training films. Most of my friends' parents were in the military, so I grew up right next to what used to be Benning, so it always seemed cool to me. And then it was kind of like at a young age, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna join the military.
How long were you in the military for?
I was in for 6 years, and then I got medically retired.
Gotcha. Well, I wanted to thank both of you guys for your service, by the way. We definitely appreciate it, and appreciate you guys still being involved and helping Bruce and this next generation coming through. I think that's really awesome. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Robert, how about you?
For joining the military, that was a long time ago, but I joined when I was 17. And I came from a very small town down in South Florida, down in the Everglades. So there wasn't a lot of opportunities. But, my grandfather was in the military, so I'd always hear his stories. My father was in the military, or my grandfather was World War II. My father was Korean War. Heard their stories, and I had a lot of cousins that were in the military. So there was just a lot of military uncle and all that. Just hearing their stories, that kind of inspired me. And then just the idea of it, not trying to sound all American pie here, but I mean, just the idea of serving the country was pretty inspirational too. But I served. So I was a combat engineer coming in, and
Okay.
and served 28 years, and then retired out.
How did you guys end up transitioning from, okay, I'm retiring from the military? Was it sort of like, well, I still want to be involved, and that led to, where you guys are now? Or, yeah, I'd say, Nick, I mean, it's pretty much your hometown, so.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, when I finalized out and got my retirement certificate, I went, sat on my couch at the house. I was 24 at the time, and I was like, all right, so what am I doing with the rest of my life? And to be honest, I never thought I was going to do anything involving the military again. I worked at the post office and FedEx. I started going to my local VFW, and I met one of the guys we work with now who was there and pretty much was like, we're hiring. You have combat arms experience. You know how to operate these weapons. We'll teach you how to fix them. And I applied, and I managed to get the job.
And for you, Robert?
So when I exited out, I applied to I decided to retire here. It wasn't my original plan, but this is where I ended up. Everything works out for a reason, I guess. But probably one of the major employers, or Fort Moore, I'm sorry, major employers in the Columbus area. And there's some other ones out there, but a good amount of government services here on Fort Benning, Fort Moore. And so that's what led me to it. I applied for a lot of jobs. So I exited out. I think I officially retired the end of August of 2014. And I got hired on and started working again in October of 2014 at the hospital here on base, Martin Army Hospital. And I worked in the emergency department as a clerk. I would check people into the emergency room, see them on their worst days that they were having, and check them out. I worked there for about 4 or 5 years. And then this job, the maintenance, the small arms repairman, it was just networking, and a friend told me about it. And then there was a job fair. They were doing some direct hire because they were short personnel. And I went over there and interviewed with our director at the time back then, and then our division chief right there on the spot, and was hired and came in. That's how that worked out.
All right, so doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Cool deal. Thank you, guys. So, Nick,
Let me interrupt you for a minute.
Oh, go for it.
Since we were talking about hiring, if anybody's interested in coming to Fort Moore, I don't know. I'm not a hiring official. I'm just a worker bee. I just do what I'm told here. But I know we are short personnel right now, and if they're interested in becoming a small arms repairman, they might want to keep a lookout on USA Jobs if they're interested in coming to Fort Moore. Because I'm sure they're going to be posting jobs pretty soon for this particular job to try and hire some more people.
Okay, cool. And no, I appreciate that. And you said that was USA Jobs.
Yeah, USA Jobs. Is it .gov?
Yeah,
.gov.
Cool.
It's the government's version of Indeed.
Oh yeah. Cool. So, guys, you heard that. Be sure to check that out if you are interested. Again, that's usajobs.gov. So, Nick, again, you kind of being the first one to take that SDI path. Real quick, when did you graduate?
I did a split. So I did the certificate first. I graduated in 2020. Then about a year later, I started. Then I graduated right around, I think, November 21 or December 22.
Okay.
Around the time frame.
Okay. I'm sure both of you guys are pretty happy to have seen the end of that journey to, be able to finally say, okay, I'm completely graduated, Robert, this week. So definitely something worth celebrating. What were some challenges that each of you guys faced while you were enrolled at SDI that maybe impacted you and how you studied, or, during your time there, and how did you overcome them?
My big things were I'm a terrible procrastinator. So
Same.
between my wife and some self-realization, I had to kind of get a lot better about my time management. Just some of the projects sometimes would have you second guess. I'm like, am I doing this right? But one of the biggest challenges I think that I had, but the best thing I did was I was still in when the 80% lowers for the AR was going on. So I got to do that. And
Mhm.
my father passed in November, but he was around, of course, during that time. And it was probably one of the coolest memories I have with him the last several years is he watched me mill out that 80%. He was so fascinated with it. That's always probably my best memory of the course. And yeah, I mean, just time management was my biggest killer.
Well, I'm terribly sorry about your loss, by the way.
Thank
But
you.
it sounds like that was a nice memory to have.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And Robert, is there anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go first on answering these questions from now on because I'm forgetting the questions. I gotta remember them.
No. You answered the question.
Yeah,
No,
the challenge, that was it, right?
yes,
The
sir.
challenge.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 55 years old.
Mhm.
So I dabbled in college courses here and there over the years, but it's been a great while since I was in school. And then so just getting back in that environment and just getting back in that school environment and having those time requirements to meet, which wasn't really difficult. My
Mhm.
kids are grown and moved out of the house, and I get grandkids every once in a while. So it was just just timing it just right on the week. So
Sure.
no challenges there.
Sure. And yeah, that's a good point. Like, is it essentially like a 9 to 5 for you guys?
Yeah, for the work.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
7:30 to 4.
yeah.
7:30 to 4. Okay. Is that like Monday through Friday, or is it
Yes.
like, yes, gotcha. That's nice. You get the weekends. Well, let me ask you about that. So, come weekend time or, when you guys have free time, what are some things that you'd like to do? It sounds like you both have families.
Yes.
Okay. So I imagine, being with the family, doing stuff like that. And I wanted to ask you, Robert, what led you to going to school? Because I know, Nick, you were sort of the first one to go to SDI, and then word kind of spread. But what was it for you, Robert? I guess, why did you decide to go to school?
So a couple reasons.
Hmm.
First, like I said, I just started this job in 2019
Hmm.
of January, and I think I started in school in I don't know, it was towards the end September October timeframe of 2019. So I was 9-10 months into this job. Uh, the people that were doing on the job training for me was outstanding. I learned. I mean, it was like drinking from a fire hose, just trying to soak all the information
Yeah.
in. But I wanted something a little bit more.
Hmm.
And Nick was telling me about the school, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I can pace myself, and it just seemed like a right thing to do, just to enhance my knowledge and abilities, and it did, and it did do that. So that was one reason. The other reason, a lot of military members are, post 9/11 GI Bill,
Hmm.
and you get that little extra cash on every month, if you're in school.
Uh-huh.
And the thing that or appealed to me about SDI too, it was that online coursework, but also hands-on because y'all send the labs
Hmm.
material to us to get hands-on. So that was a few different reasons there.
Gotcha. And you both kind of took that path of doing the certificate program and then re-enrolling into the associate's degree program, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was the motivating factor behind that? Was it just, hey, I already have all these credits, I'm already pretty close to getting the associates, might as well do it? Or
That was pretty much it. Like I finished it and I was telling myself, like, it really wasn't that bad. If I hop back in, finish this little bit left, I have an associate's degree, which is something I didn't have before.
hmm, gotcha. So you made mention of the fact that there's 5 of you guys technically that sort of work, in the same building, same underneath the same umbrella, and 5 of you have graduated or are getting ready to graduate SDI, which that's incredible. That's awesome to hear. But I also heard that you guys do SDI Fridays, and I figured we're recording this on a Thursday. That's coming up tomorrow. Could you guys just kind of tell me how that came about, what it usually entails, and also how can we get you guys some new shirts?
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, there's 5 of us that have graduated or will graduate here shortly. Nick, myself, Creel, he works at the main shop. But we just when Nick and I was going through it, we talked to other people about the school, and then Creel got interested and he came to Nick and myself and was asking about the school. He enrolled. He did the certificate as well, and he's finished with it. I forgot when he finished, but
He currently has his own FFL and actually
Yeah.
working guns as a side business.
Yep. So he opened up a little home gun smithing shop
Oh, nice.
after he finished and his certificate. And he's also now he's enrolled in another school for machinist, but it's going there every day. So he's pursuing a little bit different avenue. Our quality insurance inspector, he enrolled in it. A big factor for him was to then these guys are, well, Krill's about my age, maybe a little bit younger, but Nick, Zachary, and Cody are all about the same age in their early 30s, but they never had completed a degree. And that was something I think was a big factor for them, just so they can be more competitive in the workforce to further their career. And this was a great way because it was something that was very valuable to them, very interesting to them, and the convenience of it as well. So that's what they did. And Cody, he graduated with a degree. He plunged right into it, did the whole degree program, and he graduated last year sometime. I can't remember. And then Zachary, he's the lead, the supervisor for us, for Nick and myself at this satellite shop. And I think Cody kind of inspired him to do it just to get that degree as well. And then these guys, I kept on telling them, hey, go back, get your degree, get your degree, get your degree. And they're what about you? And I was like, I don't want to do it. But then went ahead and did it. And then
But SDI Fridays just kind of came as kind of a joke. Like we would all wear our shirts every now and then. It's like, we should just start wearing them every Friday. And some people kind of just don't like how we boast about how we all went to school a little bit because we clown about it. So we'll all like wear them and over embellish like how cool SDI was, and we have fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to. And yeah, that is one thing, Robert, you mentioned that some of the shirts have, worn down or you
after being retired, you pack on the calories.
Oh, I understand. Listen, I just got married in November and my waistline from that has I appreciate that. But my waistline has, started to grow. I'm like, I'm in trouble. But yeah, I would definitely need to send you guys some shirts. So, maybe after this call, just tell me like shipping address that I can send that to you. Because, we love to get you guys set up. Speaking of SDI, what were skills for each of you that you learned while you're at school that have helped you now?
Personally, for me, because I was like, I know they're going to ask this question. I was trying to reflect back on all the courses that you take and trying to remember, but 2 of them really stood out in my mind. One was the lab for the AR. I guess it was a lab for the AR-15 build. I chose the AR-15 build, but it was at the same time that we were actually working over at the Ranger Training Battalion, and majority of those weapons are M4s. In our main shop, you don't get the chance to work on M4s that often. Not very, very seldom, actually. So you have to go to that site to work on them. And then so we was having on-the-job training, but the build was happening at the same time, my coursework for that. So it just really tied it all together for me. So I could go home and I could get hands-on and then doing all the reading and writing and the assignments and everything. It just really, really pieced it in. The second one was the advanced ballistic course. The ballistic course, the basic ballistic course, I think I'll call it something different now. It was good, but the advanced ballistics I really enjoyed. And again, it was just timing for me because, how do I say it? So certain things was happening at our shop, and we were just having a discussions, and it was a prolonged discussion of about headspace on a particular weapon system. And again, it was at the same time in the advanced ballistic class that we were discussing some of those terminologies, some of the definitions, the measurements, where to go look for information, etc. And so it just really, because I gave a presentation to my director about the headspace. So it all just helped me do that. So it was good. It gave a very solid foundation. And I'll say, I don't know if SDI will make you a gunsmith as soon as you get out of doing it, but it will give you a solid foundation to build from to make you a gunsmith, if that's fair. I guess that's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere, and it's a good place to start, and it gives it that. And there's and other courses. I'm not trying to disregard all the other courses that we took, but those two really stood out in my mind personally.
For sure. And yeah, that would make sense, especially with how they coincided with what was happening to you, at work. So I think that's really cool. And, kind of a crazy coincidence how that worked out.
Yeah, I'd say for me, I agree with his points, but my two biggest are foundation. That did help out my overall foundation. And probably the top one I would say was thought process. It helped me start thinking a lot more versus just not really going through the motions, but I mean, kind of going through the motions like, all right, this is broke. All right, well, why could that be broke? Could that be this part right here? Helping me really help diagnose what could be more possible reasons why that part's broke, besides just saying, hey, that part's broke.
So like almost like giving like a guide or something, like, or like a mental map of like, okay, if A happens, then for B, C, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Add on to what he said, I know I forgot what class it was in, but they was talking about the cycle of operation, and writing the papers is a pain in the butt that they are to do.
Yeah.
It makes you, like he said, it makes you focus, makes you think about, well, what is the next step? And like we work on guns every day and we just do it. We're not explaining it to anyone. We're just doing it. Well, in the school, you got to explain yourself with the paper because you got to turn in an assignment. So that was a big one too, the cycle of operation. I was like, wow, well, we know this, but how do you word it?
Oh yeah, no, I feel you there. Do you guys have any sort of last words about SDI and what your experience was there that you want to share? Or
yeah, I'll go. Okay, you
go first.
Yeah, if anybody's debating it, I would say jump on it. You're not gonna lose anything. You're gonna gain something. Is every course? Are you gonna enjoy every course? I don't know. Maybe not, but you're still gaining something. And that's the wonderful thing about, and I'll say the firearm industry, or for me, was if our job, it becomes redundant sometimes because we're doing the same gun all the time, the same gun. However, if you keep an open mind, willingness to learn, and search out these things like these courses like SDI to do, you will always learn something. Almost every day, you'll learn something new every day. And SDI kind of opened my eyes to that as well. And, and even like taking a course, I was like, I already know this. And then get into the course a couple of weeks in, oh, I don't know this. Let me read and figure this out, So yeah, if anybody's on the fence, I jump on it and do it. You won't be disappointed.
I appreciate you saying so. I did want to ask you guys, because you did bring up a good point. Like, you guys tend to work on the same firearms day in, day out. I wanted to ask for both of you, do you have a favorite gun that you get to work on, or do you have a least favorite firearm? Like the one that's just a total pain in the butt, like, oh goodness gracious, okay, we got like 12 of these that we have to do.
I'd say my least favorite probably is a 50 cal, just because there's a lot of random small things. He's laughing, he knows. And my favorite, even though I can do saws pretty quick, I'd say it's probably the 240 Bravo. It's just when you're working on guns like more and more, 240 has a really good flow when I'm taking the parts around and checking it versus all the other weapons.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm a little opposite. I like working on the 50 cal.
Really? Okay.
It's just bigger. To me, it's easier parts to grab a hold of. And then the Mark 19. Mark 19 is the 40 millimeter grenade launcher, and it's intimidating when you first do it, but after you do it a few times, I enjoy that one as well. So those are probably my top two. I would really like 249. I can't stand working on the 249 because we do so many of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just so much. I mean, we did last 2 days over 100.
We're
easily
over 100.
Yeah, the last 2 days over 100, and when we come off of this,
We still
we're
got
gonna go out there and work on 249s again.
Oh my gosh. Well,
So-
how many typically, or how many firearms, I guess, do you typically work on a day-to-day basis? I
So
know
that's
that
a-
thing fluctuates, but
Yeah, so what I just said, as far as working on 100 of them, that's a fluke. I mean, that's not normal for us to do. We do work on a lot, but that's not normal. Only reason we're doing that is because of a training mission coming up for these soldiers that we're supporting,
since
and they
it's
got to have the guns. So we had to push a little bit harder to get them the guns they needed. But every gun has a technical manual to go through and tell you exactly what to look for, what steps to follow, what parts to order, parts number you order, whatever you need. The other part in that technical manual, we call it a MAC chart, and it tells you exactly breakdown on how much time you get for each gun and for each thing you do on your gun. So for instance, I think a 249 gives you 1.1 man hours, which is just a little bit over what is like a 1 hour and 6 minutes.
okay.
That's how much time's allotted to you to do that. Is it going to take you 1 hour and 6 minutes? Probably not, but that's how much you're allotted to. So in a typical day, as far as like work requirement, is an 8 hour day. So there's 8 guns, well, 7 guns actually, of 249s. And then so every gun's a little bit different. But typically we're probably doing, I'd say probably like 18 249s a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
50s, maybe 8 50s a day, something like that.
Okay. So not every day is like, 100. Yeah, okay.
No.
We had to earn our paycheck every now and then, I guess.
Well, that's good. Oh, cool deal. So I mentioned the podcast earlier. It's called The Gun Rack. I don't know if you guys have listened to it before or not, but
I've listened to a few of them.
okay. I don't know if you've listened recently, but we have a segment that we like to do. It's called Tales from the Range. And basically it's just a collection of funny stories or goofs that people have seen happen at ranges or when they've gone out hunting or whatever. And I wanted to ask, if you don't want to share, that's totally fine. But I wanted to ask if either of you guys had a funny story that you've seen occur at a range or just when you were out.
I mean, we deal with basic trainees, so
You see a lot of them.
they don't have to really be on the range to see some pretty funny stuff with the way the drill sergeants are yelling at them. But a lot of our stuff tends to be, since we don't be on the range often, we just get the mistakes on our table.
Mm.
Yeah, somehow this gun blew up. I wonder how that happened.
So y'all get the aftermath of it.
Yeah.
You get to gotcha.
We didn't really get the fun actually seeing it happen often.
Oh, well, then in that case, you just end up making up stories like, well, wonder how it happened like this. Oh, I bet, so and so.
Probably some of the funnier ones we've seen was when we were over at Ranger School. They had to jump with their rifles, and we had one that came in that they used the rifle to break their fall. That thing was destroyed. Like we were like, how did this even happen? It was gone.
Well, how steep was the fall?
Them jumping out of a plane. So I don't know exactly,
a decent, a decent distance.
Yeah. We also had a machine gun barrel that apparently got stuck in the Bradley's turret. So it was like bent like that. That was an interesting one.
Oh, how about the sewage truck running over all the?
Oh yeah. About a year or two ago, out here on base, they had to put all their extra barrels for some reason out in one of the training areas, and a sewage truck drove past and ran over all the barrels. And they ended up on my desk, and I had to sit there, gauge all these, look at all what was broken, so they could find out the amount to actually charge the company that ran them over. Oddly enough, besides a couple of broken heat shields, there was really nothing wrong with them. When they told me I was having to do that, I was honestly hoping for a little more carnage, but I was kind of disappointed on it.
I'm sure your day will come before long. You'll get more than you bargained for. But awesome. Well, Robert, Nick, thank you guys so much again for coming on and sharing your SDI experience, talking about what you do, and also for some decent tales from the range. I appreciate that.
I'll say one more thing. If anybody who is listening is currently a soldier out here at Fort Moore or around the area with base access, whenever you release this podcast, I'll post on the SDI Facebook group. They can always contact me if they want to come out here and watch us work on some guns if they have access to base. We will gladly show them the process and stuff. So we have a few soldiers right now in this unit who are going to SDI. Whenever we find that out, we always tell them, you have time, come down here. We will show you how we gauge stuff. We will show you everything we do. We're not going to let you, of course, work a gun because that's a safety hazard. But if you want to help broaden your mindset on stuff, we'll be glad to show you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Guys, yeah, you heard them. If you are currently stationed at Fort Moore, formerly known as Fort Benning, make sure you hit up Robert and Nick on that. That sounds really cool.
All right, guys. So that was the episode. Again, we want to thank Robert and Nick for hopping onto the podcast and taking time out of their day to talk with us and share a little bit of what they do. Yeah, until next week, that has been the Gun Rack. Have fun, stay safe, and we will see you at the range.
Sonoran Desert Institute is an online school accredited by the DEAC. It is headquartered at 1555 West University Drive in Tempe, Arizona. For more information about how you can craft your firearms future, visit sdi.edu.